Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today, Masechtas Makkot daf Tes. We're going to begin on Testament Aleph, the third line from the top. Chutzmi al Yedei Ger Toishav. So the Mishnah on the previous daf said that everyone will go to Golus al Yedei Israel. Namely, if you kill a Yid, then you'll go to Golus, which includes, as we saw, even if an Eved or Kusi kills Yisrael, they'll go to Golus too. The Yisrael go in al Yedei Hen, and the Yisrael will also go to Golus if they would kill a Eved or a Kuti b'shogeg, and also it also mentions that there'd be din malchus, and we end up saying maskana that even though we say when it comes to someone who does not do ma'isa amcha that there's no din of cursing, but there's still a din of the isser of hakah, of hitting. And therefore, if you hit him, a hakah shimush pruda, so there's no monetary payment, but you would be chayiv malchus. Then the Mishnah concluded, and it said chutz meger toishev, with the exclusion of a ger toishev. When it comes to a ger toishev, it says Rashi she'en Yisrael, clearly that she'en Yisrael goyel al yadai, that if Yisrael will kill a ger toshav, then the Yid will not go to Golus, or a Ger Toishev Einu Goyel El Al Yedei Ger Toishev. So a Ger Toishev only if he kills another Ger Toishev. So we see clearly from our Mishnah, says the Gemara, that Machlal, what we see from here, Chutz Mi'al Yedei Ger Toishev Chul Al Ger Toishev of Kachavim. He's obviously not a Yid, because if he was, so if Yisrael would kill a Ger Toishev, so then you would be chayav to go to Golus. So Ema Seifa Ger Toishev Goyel Al Yedei Ger Toishev. So why would it be that a Ger Toishev would end up going to Golus by killing another Ger Toishev? If he is an Akum, then there's no din Golus for killing an Akum. So Amar Kahano Kasha, Kan Ger Toishev Shaharag Ger Toishev, Kan Ger Toishev Shaharag Yisrael. So what exactly is this saying? So says Rashi, when it comes to a Ger Toishev Shaharag who kills another Ger Toishev Goyla, then you will go to Golus. Tiny behedya v'reisha, when we says you don't go to Golus, is kishahar Yisrael and a goyla dosagile begolus. As we mentioned many times, the punishment is not just punishment, but it's a form of kapara. So therefore, if a ger toishev kills another ger toishev, fine, he'll go to Golus. But a ger toishev who kills a yid, so that is so severe that Golus will not suffice. Okay, Okasha Khan beger toishev shar ger toishev. Kan beger toishev shar Yisrael. Even Rami cry Dadi. Some ask it through a contradiction in Psukim. Siv, on one hand, the pasuk says in Sefer B'Midbar, Livnei Yisrael v'ger v'toishev b'soichem tiyena sheish ha'orim. So it says ger v'toishev. So apparently the ger toishev is included. V'ksiv v'ayu lachem ha'orim l'mikol. It should be for you lachem as orim mikol lachem v'lo gerim. So it doesn't mean a ger, like a ger tzedek. A ger toishev is not the same thing. So the question is, so how do we understand these psukim? So Amar Kahano Kasha Kan Beger Toishev Shar Yisrael. In that situation, we say it's V'hayu Lachem, that he's not going to go to Golus. Kan Beger Toishev Shar Ger Toishev. There we say it's Livnei Yisrael V'ger L'Toishev B'Soichem Tiyena Sheish Harim, that he would go. Raminhi Asher Kasha. Farak the Gemara Lafikach. Therefore, Ger v'Oiv Kachavim. When you have a ger or an Oiv Kachavim for that matter, Shahargu, that kill Niragin. The din is that they in turn will be killed. Now Katani Ger Dumid Oiv Kachavim. We're making a comparison between a ger and Oiv Kachavim. Ma Kachavim Loishna the Katal Bar Minei Loishna the Katal Labar Minei Nerag. It doesn't make any difference. When it comes to an Oiv Kachavim, whether they kill one of their own type, another Oiv Kachavim, or someone who's not, they're still killed. So Avger Loshna de Katal Bar Minei, Loshna Katal Labar Minei Nerag. So when it comes to a ger toishev also, if he kills his own or he kills a Yisrael, in either situation he should also be nerag. So we see that he never goes to Golus, even a case where he kills a fellow ger toishev. So Rav Chislo Kasha, Kan shehargu derech harida, kan shehargu derech aliyah. So, and we'll understand this a little bit better. Obviously, he's only going to be chayiv Golus if it's derech yerida. So the Gemara explains like this. This is an important piece. Derech Yerida the Israel, if he's going down and he kills the Israel, Goli Ihu Nami Goli, he goes to Golos. So because that's the case by Yid, Ihu Nami Sagli Golos, he can also go to Golos. Derech Aliyah the Israel, however, going up, Yisrael is Potter, who Nerag, in that situation he's killed, which is a shtickle hard to understand. If we're saying Madach by Yisrael, Derech Yerida, he goes to Golos, so too when it comes to Ger Toshiv goes to Golos. So when it comes to going Derech Aliyah, where Yisrael is completely Potter, why would it be Hu Nerag? It should also be Hu Potter. That's the Kasha, Amalei Rava, Lav Kavachimer Huma, Derech Yerida, the Yisrael Goli. When it comes to Yisrael, he gets a more severe punishment than being Potter. Aliyah, he gets nothing. Yerida, he gets the punishment. Ihu Nami Sagli Begol, so Derech Aliyah, the Yisrael Potter, he gets a more lenient punishment. You Nerag, why would we actually kill the guy? We had this piece before. We're talking about a case of Oimer Mutter, says Rashi. Nerag, he's killed Delav Bar Golosu. If a person thinks, I thought it was you were allowed to do this, you're allowed to kill, so in that situation he's not a Bar Golos, as we saw before, that's a miyut, that we don't include such a person. Okay, so we're talking about an Oimer Mutter. Armali Abaya, Oimer Mutter Anasu. This is a famous Makkot, Abaya and Rabbi. And he's a Mutter. He's a Oimer Mutter is an Oinus. Armali Shani Oimer Mutter Karvel Mezid who. I actually consider him to be Karvel Mezid, not Karvel Oinus, but Karvel Mezid. The Oslo Tamaya, they go according to the reason. Ditmar. Gesavar Behemov, he thought that it was an animal. Vinim Sa'adam, and it taka turned out to be a person. Or for that matter, and Rashi says, "Harizek Oimer Mutter." That's comparable to a case of Oimer Mutter, because you thought that there's nothing wrong with killing an animal, right? And Rashi says, "Of a ger toishav askina," an important piece. So if you have a ger toishav who thought that this was an animal and he ends up killing a person instead, that's a case of Oimer Mutter. For that matter, Kanaini, he thought it was a Kanani. So in those situations, that's Rava Oimer Chayiv. Oimer Mutter Kerbel Mezidhu. That's why he's going to be Chayiv. Rav Chisda Omer Potter Oimer Mutter Onasu. So Esvei Rav Chisda. The pasuk says Hincha Meis Al Isha Shelakachta. You're going to die because of the woman that you took, that you shouldn't have taken Abraham's wife. Mila B'di Adam. It means that he's going to be killed, even though apparently he's an Oimer Mutter. Avshalom Eli Melech did not know that this was an Eishes Ish. So it's an Oimer Mutter, and nonetheless we see his Chayev. So we see Taka that an Oimer Mutter is like Mezid, not Oinus. Lo B'di Shemayim. So Ekanami Dechsiv Machtali Machatoli, from sinning to me. L'taimei Chatasi Lokim, a sin to God, Lokim Lo Adam. El dini masul adam hachinami din masul adam. As these dinim were given over to a person. Eisvi Abaya lo Rava. So now he asks Akasha. Abaya asks Akasha and Rava. You Rava say Omer Mutter is considered to be Karev Umezid. Well, what do you mean? Hagoy gam sadik teharog. Well, he said that he said it's not fair. Why would you kill a tzaddik? Because I'm Omer Mutter. So we clearly see an Omer Mutter is an Inus. Now, Hasam could come a hadri alai. You have to look at what was the response. Now, Hashav Eishes Ish ki navihu. He was instructed to give back Sarah because Avraham was a navi. What does that mean? Famous sugya, Testament base. Eishes navihu ditahader. You only have to give back a wife of a navi. She deserves to be returned. The lav navi lo tehader, not a woman who is just married to some stam guy. It's still Eishes Ish. Ella kidem Rav Shmuel ben Achmeni, Dem Rav Shmuel ben Achmeni, Rav Yonasan, Haki Karmelia. That's what it means. Yata Hashem Estacious Ish Mikol Malkum. You have to return this married woman, no matter what. Doesn't matter if she's who she's married to. You have to return her. Udi Ka'armit, and now what you said, Hagoy Gam Sadik Taroi, Gam Omer Mutter, Haloihu Omer Li Achaisihi Megomer. You said, is this my sister? Right? So Navihu, he understands because he's a Navi. Umimchal Lamad, from you he was able to learn from. What does that mean? Because if you have guests that come to a city, Al iske achilu shtiya shoalnos. So you ask him, do you need something to food? Do you need something to eat? Do you need something to drink? Kulam shoalnos. So ishta chazu, achais chazu. Why is he asking? Is this your wife? Is this your sister? It was obvious that because Avram understood you're going to try to take her. So to save his own life, he said that it was his sister. Mekan sheben noach nerag shahayu limud v'lamad. It teaches us that a ben noach can be killed because he should have inspected into the matter and learned, but he did not learn. Okay, so this does not answer our question of a case of an Omer Mutter because he really was not as innocent as he pretended to be. Question 5. So is he chayv or not? So it's totally the machlokes. Rava, and it says over here, Varach, Rava haya mischayim misa di'amar muter karbo misa. L'rach, Chanina, that was Rava and Abaya. Abaya l'Rava. Let's just get the names down over here. Rav Chisda. Okay. So Rav Chisda Omer. So I guess the machlokes is Rav Chisda. Let's just get this down. Rava Omer Chayiv, Omer Mutter Karvel Mezid who, and Rav Chisda. It is Taka Rav Chisda. Potter Omer Mutter Oinasu. So according to the sheet of Rav Chisda, who says that Omer Mutter is so he says it's Karvel Mezid, so he should be Chai Misa. However, that's according to Rava. According to Rav, I keep saying the name wrong, Rav Chisda, who said it should be Potter, because Omer Mutter is not Karvel Mezid, but Karvel Oinis, so he would not be Chayiv. So that's basically all we're asking for over here. Whether or not Avi Melech is Chayiv is whether or not you would say he's an Omer Mutter or not. Which again, Lamaskana, he really may not have been such an innocent guy to begin with. Okay, fine. Let's just see if there's another question over here. Okay. All right, let's continue with the next Mishnah. Says the Mastisa, Hasuma in a goyla. They Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda holds that a blind person doesn't go to golos. So we actually have a machlokus over here regarding a blind person. If he kills, does he go to golos? Hasayne in a goyla. Someone who kills out of hatred. You hate the guy, so you also don't go to golos. Rabbi Yosi Amar Hasayne Nerag. He's actually killed in Nishu Kamuid. He's considered to be like a wild person, and he's like bemazed. Rav Shimon Omer Yesh Sayne Goy Yesh Sayne Shenu Goy. It depends. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Seklal Kosher Hu Yochel Omer Ladas Harag and a Goyla. Anytime you can say that I killed with intention, then he's not going to go to ghost because it was on a shaygig. Shalom Ladas Harag is a Goyla. However, if he didn't do it with any prior intention, then he would go to ghost because it's only a shaygig. And of course, the Gemara is going to explain what does that mean. Tanurban. Below Rois, the pasuk says below Rois. So we're going to our Makkot. So Prat Lusuma, Rabbi Yehuda says that someone who can't see is someone who's blind, and therefore that's why Rabbi Yehuda says that a blind person is not goyla. Rameir Omer Bloy Rois is a Rabas Susuma. Taka includes a blind person. So my time Rabbi Yehuda. So why does Rabbi Yehuda say that it excludes? Going into a forest. Now that's a filusuma. Any person can go into a forest, even a blind person. Therefore, the next part is miyate. It's coming to exclude everyone because we already included everyone. So obviously, the next piece must be excluding someone. Must be therefore excluding a blind person. You're right, is lamait. However, there's another miyat of das lamait. So havi midach miyat elo rabos. So therefore, you have like two double negatives, right? So it ends up becoming a positive. Therefore, the blind person is chayiv. Rabbi Yehuda bevli das prat muschaven hudasa. Bevli das is not just some extra words, but rather blodois without seeing him is bevli das without consent is without das is someone who's mischaven. If you're mischaven, then you're not going to go to goals because you're not a shaygig. If you're saying in there, v'chul so you have machlok is by someone who hates. I have a holo asrube. Understand? Why would he potentially get punished there was no hasra, right? When he says, according to the Tanakama, Sani Enu Goyla, Rav Yossi Omer, Sani Nerag, we can kill him. What do you mean? There's no hasra. So Masisin Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Hudahi, this time Yossi Rabbi Omer, Chavin Sarach Hasra, Lefishal Nisna Hasra, Havchin Ben Shegla Mezid. So we're actually talking about this person who's a Saine, who's also someone who is a Talmud Chacham, is a Chaver, and every Hasra is not necessary. He can be killed even without Hasra. There's Shimon Omer, it depends. How do we know? How does he understand the Omer of Shimon? How do we figure it out? So, Nifsak, let's say the rope broke Goyla, because there's no way that he intended for the rope to snap, so therefore it was an accident. It was not predetermined. However, Nishmat, if let's say the rope slipped out of his hands, Enu Goyla, because we can infer he probably kind of let go, and he did it with Kavana. So where it says, V'asanya, Rabbi Shimon Omer, Oylam Enu Goyla, you don't go to Golas ad Shishamit Michelso Miyadai, unless the roof roller slips out of your hands. Now it's telling you that you only go to Golas if it slips out. Now Kasha Nifsak and Nifsak, because we said before if it broke, then you would go to Golas. Here it's Mashbi, you wouldn't. Kasha Nishmat and Nishmat. And it's also Kasha, because over here it says that if it slips out of your hands, you do go to Golas, then before we said you don't. So there's different girsas over here. Nifsak and Nifsak, or maybe the first one is actually Nishmat. The Nishmat, right? So let's just read this. So Kash Nifsak and Nifsak, Kash Nishmat and Nishmat. So some people say Nishmat and Nishmat with regard to slipping, Lo Kasha, Haba Oihev, Haba Saine. So if you love the guy, even if it slips out of your hand, you're probably not gonna. Then you don't go to Golas. Then you do go to Golas because you didn't intend to kill him. But a Saine slipped out of his hands. That's pretty intentional. Now some people, instead of Nishmat and Nishmat, they say that this is Nifsak. A Nifsak, Okasha, Harebi, Harabanan. What is Harebi, Harabanan? Let's look in Rashi. Haditani, and here it says Nishbat. Okay, that's why it's questionable what the Girs is. The one who says the Goyla, Ba'oihev, is you love the guy, Doloi Choshid, the Ovid Madas. He didn't want to kill the guy, right? When it says that he doesn't go to Golas if you hate him, okay, that makes sense. And then we have Rebbe Harabanan. Hadik Tani Nifsa Goyla. Why do you go to Golas? I feel beside it, even if you hate him. The Koshkin Ba'oyev, certainly if you love the guy, why would you end up going to Golas? Rabbanan Veliba de Rav Shimon hu. The Omer Nishmat Habarzel Mikito. We're going to remember that Machlokas, if the blade flies off, Vaharag, and kills someone, Goyla. So the question is it the chips of the wood, or is it the blade? When Nifsek Achavel, and the breaking of, snapping of a piece of rope, is Dumya de Nishmat Habarzel. It's comparable to the blade flying off from its handle. He Shenishar Eged, that the handle remains, Biado, in his hands. Like the rest of the rope is in your hands. So therefore we're saying that it's totally on that machlokas. Okay. Let's see if there's another question over here. Question TA 10. Rav Shimon Omer Yeshani Goyla Yeshani Enu Goyla Matai Goyla Ma Enu Goyla Lagir says Rashi, and I just got this completely wrong, which is unbelievably sad. So he says like this: Benifsik Goyla, V'nishmat Enu Goyla. This is very difficult to understand. This is the answer. If it snapped, then you go to Golas. Nishmat Enu Goyla. Yeah, that's true, but we ended up having a kash on that. I guess for some reason that's just the pasha the teretz over here. That's the first reading. So let's just assume that's what it is. So Nifsa Goyla, Nishmat Enu Goyla. Okay, that's all they want me to write. That's all I'm going to write, but it seems to be a lot more than that. Okay, That's TA10. TA10. TB11. Let's see a little bit more. Let's finish this daf. Says the Mastisen. Lahechin goylin. So where does a person go if he's chayav galus? So La'ari Mikla, as we know, the city of refuge. Was shalosh. Now there was shalosh shebe'ever hayard. Then there was shalosh shebe'eretz Canaan. There was 3 in the Transjordan, the eastern side of the Jordan River. There was 3 in Eretz Canaan. Shnemar that shalosh ha'arim titnu be'ever hayardain. That there was 3 cities in the area of Yarden. And shalosh ha'arim titnu be'eretz Canaan. The Goyim. There was another 3 in Israel. So Ad Shlo Nivchu Shloisha Shemeretz Israel. The truth is, until those 3 in Eretz Israel were all set up, the ones in outside of Eretz Israel didn't protect. It was like a 6. It was an all or nothing deal. Shnemer Sheish Ari Mikot Tiena, that there's all 6. Ad Shu Shashtan or Shalashtan, it says on the side. Sheishtan Koltois Kachas. I'm not really understanding the gears of Shalashtan. All 6 have to be koilet, and therefore you had to have the ones in Eretz Yisrael built, and then the ones in the on the Transjordan, and then they'll work too. And they used to have roads all prepared to get from one place to the next. So there was an Indian of having proper roads. So that people would be able to run to the city of refuge without the fear of the Gol Adam killing them. And there would be 2 Talmid Chachamim that would accompany him, the one who is running to the city of refuge. Shemi Yehargenu B'derech, because maybe he may get killed on the road by the Gol Adam. V'yadabru of Reb Meir Oimer Afhu Medaber Ali de Atzmo. He can talk through himself. So what does that mean? The Tiferes Yisrael has the gears of af. Besides, the question is af hu medaber. Besides the 2 Talmid Chachamim, even the person himself can talk the Gol Adam out of killing him. Shnemer v'zed davar ha'ritzeach, or this is the dibor. These are the words of the ritzeach. So the idea again is via daber of that maybe the Talmid Chachamim will speak to the Gol Adam and say you have no right to kill him. So again, he has a right to maybe speak up himself, which is obvious. Rav Yosi, Rabbi Yehuda, Omer, Ben Chila is an important piece. Everyone runs to the Beit Ari Mikla. It doesn't matter. As soon as you kill someone, everyone goes to the city of refuge. Based in Shoichin, the Beis Din will send for them. Umavian Oiso Misham, and they'll bring them from there. Mishas Chai Misa, the Beis Din Harguhu. If a person's Chai Misa is Beis Din, he'll be killed in Beis Din. The Shon is Chai Misa Patruhu. The person who's not Chai Misa B'dei Adam, and a person who's also not going to be Chai Galus, he just goes, that's it. Mishas Chai Galus, Masir Noislam come, he goes back. Shenemar, the Yeshiva Oiso Heido El Ir Mikolata V'Goymer. He has to go back to the city of refuge. It says the Gemara, Tanoban, Shalosh Arim Hivdil Moshe Be'er HaYarden. 3 cities that Moshe did. However, since Moshe didn't make it into Israel, he couldn't do the other 3. Ukenegden Hivdil Yoshua Be'eretz Canaan. As we find toward the end of Sefer Yeshua, that he built these 3 cities. It's almost Shuras B'Kerem. It was comparable to like rows in a vineyard, that they were like in a straight line. 3 here, 3 here, corresponding to another. Hebron in Yehuda was Keneged Batzer B'Midbar. Shechem, which is Bahar Ephraim, was Keneged Ramos B'Gilad. In Kadesh Bahar Naphtali, Keneged Goylun B'Bashan. Shloishes Shu Mishuloshin Shayim Medaram, L'Chevron Ki Chevron L'Shchem, U'Mechevron L'Shchem Ki Mishchem L'Kadesh, U'Mishchem L'Kadesh Ki Mikadesh L'Tzafain. In other words, they all have to be of equal distance, from the one on the top to the middle to the bottom. Right? They all need to be within the same measurements of one another. Now, B'yemer Yarden Tlas Beretz Yisrael Tlas. Fact, the Mishnah doesn't make any sense. Why was it necessary to have more people, more cities of refuge, when in reality, there's only 2.5 tribes over there, 9.5 of the other. So Mishnah answers, because in Gilad, which is on the Abraham Yarden, there was a lot of Reitzchim. So there's a Reuven, Gad, Lechatzi, Menashe over there. There was more murderers. So therefore, proportionally, they needed to have also 3 cities of refuge to accommodate more murderers. So that's the significance of that. Actually, this is we're in the Gemara already. Okay, so that's what the Gemara asks. The Chsiv Gilad Karis Poali Oven. This is a city of sin. Akuva Medam. It's an ambushing people. They ambush people to kill them. So my Akuva Medam. So Rabbi Lezer Shoya Oikvin Lahareg Nefashais, that they would ambush people to kill them. So Mashna Mahai Gisa the Mercharke. How come when it comes to this side and the other side it's far? Mahishna Mitzioin and Mikarve. It's closer. So if you think about the middle city, right? The middle city, you only have this small amount of space, and over here you have this, and you have all of that, right? So it seems like the middle cities, there's more, there's less inhabitants. There's less square amos or acreage to get to that city of refuge, the middle one. Well, why? So the answer is because in Shechem there's also a lot of Reitzchim, and therefore because of that, there had to be a smaller amount of space to accommodate those people. The Chsiv, as the pasuk says, V'kach ish gedudim chaver kohanim, like the plotting of these people, the group chaver kohanim derech yirtzoichu shechem avol goymer. So my chaver kohanim, what does it mean, like the group of kohanim? Shahayu mischavrim laharig nefashos ki kohanim halalu shemischavrim lachal trumos bebasic granais. So that this is what they used to do. We're going to stop here. That granois as gragos. It's probably granois. Can't read the word because it's an old text. Anyway, so they gathered to kill people, just like Kohanim used to gather to divide up the truma. Anyway, the famous kasha, Taisus asked this kasha on the previous daf, Perish lahachi hutzruchinu l'ari miklat lefi kishahargin mezid below edim hakadosh baruch hu mezamnin lepundik echad. The question is, if there are more reitzchin, right? So if there's a lot of murderers, so then how do we understand this pshat, right? Why would an Ari Miklat is for people who are b'shayging? So how is this answer? So Taisus says it's true, but because Hashem does things midah keneged midah, so if it turns out you killed someone without witnesses, so you're going to need to encounter someone who's going to kill you, and therefore that person will end up killing you b'shayging. And therefore those people have to go to the city of refuge. Alternatively, I once heard, and I can't remember where I saw this, that in these cities, for example in Gilad, there were expert killers, and therefore when they used to murder b'mezid, they give the appearance that it was only b'shaygeg, so that they would only be chayv gol. So that's another reason. Rosh Hashiva Rabbi Zweig gives another very simple answer, beautiful pshat, that what's the whole notion of shaygeg? Shaygeg is not an accident. Shaygeg is that a person is negligent. Like you're chopping wood and you're not paying attention to all your surroundings. So if you're someone who is shchichi reitzchim, you don't care much about human life, you're also going to probably have more shaygeg, because you're not going to be very cautious and careful about the people around you. Pashit, I think really one of the other answers to this is what the Mishnah says b'farish. The Mishnah, as we saw, told us that b'tchil echad sheg v'echad mezid makdim l'ari miklat. So if there's shchichi reitzchim, they still need to run to the Ari Miklat. Everyone goes to the city of refuge, and for that reason, maybe that's the reason why it was necessary. Okay. TB nothing. TA. Oh, let's look at question 6. Nope, we didn't do that one yet either. And TA 11. Yershein Bazakanim Adkan.